Look at this fossil, or this. All of the frames of the sea creature fossils that are found remains so intact that they look just like they were X-rayed when they were still alive. But don't you think it is too perfectly preserved? It looks as if they had been intentionally designed to be displayed in museums. Let's think about this. If the fossil forming process had been natural and gradual, when the fish died, smaller fish would have eaten it and eventually the remains would have gotten decomposed. You may say like, so what? Some fish die this way, others die that way. Okay, but did you know that the fossils that are found around the world do not show any trace of decomposition? With no exception? Backbones, gills, fins, and even scales are preserved without any trace of decay. Look at this. This fish got killed while it was eating another fish. It happened all of a sudden, like a blink of an eye. Would it be possible that they came to have this level of preservation with gradual process for a very long period of time? Just like what we learned from some books or documentaries? Why is it so hard to find, like, naturally half-deformed fish fossils? Think about that for a moment. There is only one possibility that can give an answer to this question, which is a sudden and enormous rush of mud flow at the bottom of the ocean while the fish are alive. To meet the conditions required, the mud rush, also called as turbidity current, has to be sudden, fast, and enormous. Maybe tsunami will be the best model that can help you imagine this catastrophe. Actually, to think of tsunami helps us to have better understanding of what kind of occasion has possibly formed those fossils under the sea. Let us circle back to the fossils. Again, only a great catastrophe that happened all over the globe simultaneously can explain how they have those levels of perfection in terms of their preservation. Now, we are going to look into whether we can determine the ages or just the order of ages by observing the geological stratum. Let me introduce an experiment conducted by Dr. Julian Pierre, professor at Colorado State University. This will make us think about if a geological stratum can represent any age or era. See what happens when the turbidity current forms stratum. You might have learned this stratum shows the order of ages like Paleozoic era or Cretaceous period. But here goes what this experiment reveals.
This typical delta gradually progresses in the downstream direction . A close look at the top-set slope in slow motion clearly shows a laminated deposit of finer particles. The thickness of the top-set deposit decreases in the downstream direction as the foreset slope of the delta is approached.
Over a long period of time, the accumulation of sediments displays clear stratification, with fine particles on top, coarse particles in the middle, and fine particles on the bottom. It is important to understand that the chronology of the formation of the deposits depends on the layers and not on the strata.
Isochrones correspond to the interface between successive layers, not strata.
When turbidity current flows, look at this. The strata are not in the order of like old guys lower or younger guys higher. See how he explains with time 1, which is for earlier time point, and time 2, which is later time point. As you can see, this upper part was formed earlier than this lower part.
Let's now consider two particles in the delta. Particle A in the upper strata and particle B in the lower strata. Particle A deposited at a time T1 before particle B. Particle B in the lower strata therefore deposited after particle A in the upper strata.
It is pretty straightforward that with this turbidity current model, stratum or the fossils in them don't suggest any time period. What they indicate is just location with regard to the seismic epicenter. Since the orders of the fossils have always been different from what geoscientists expected, in other words, since they've never matched this chart, the irregularity have long been a pain in the butt when they try to figure out the timeline of the stratum. Now you see what gave the headache to the geoscientists who believe in evolution theory. First, they just ignored the possibility of global scale flood accompanied by global scale tsunamis. Second, their belief in evolution theory made them stick to the timeline of this chart, which doesn't have any evidence. In the next video, we'll be talking about how perfectly geological findings match what the Bible says about the creation and the flood in Noah's day. Thank you for watching. This is Stones Cry Out.